start with figuring out what does health look like for you physically, mentally, emotionally, and work really hard on being good at you.
Healthy mind, healthy body, healthy life. Soul Food on Smooth 98.1.
It's Soul Food right here on Smooth 98.1, 4 minutes past 8 o'clock. We are about to talk the issue of stress, especially as touching men, because again, it is International Men's Health Month. It is Father's Day tomorrow. So let's help the men deal with what is going on with them that sometimes they do not open up about. We will get to that later on, but you can join us and of course ask your questions if you have any during the course of the conversation. You can send them to 0809-444-0981. That's the WhatsApp line, and you can call 01-448-9981. You can also join the YouTube stream, which is youtube.com/smooth981FM Lagos. And you can slide into our Instagram DM and send your messages. There is Twitter also, which you can tag us at smooth981FM. Getting right to it, I do have my guest joining me via Zoom. And of course, if you are tuning, you will know that he is not a stranger to the show at all. Of course, on days like this, I am grateful and appreciative of his presence. That is clinical psychologist Chris Abojei. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Always a pleasure to have you. Getting right to the topic of stress, just a refresher for someone who wants to get the nitty-gritty of stress, or at least what it entails. How would you define stress?
Well, so there are many ways to define stress, but one of the definitions that I like and I choose to always go with is that stress is a natural response to threats, right? To perceived threats. So the key words there are: one, it's a natural response. That means it's normal. The second there is that it is usually a response to perceived threats, which simply means that the threat doesn't have to be real. It just has to be something you perceive. I like this definition.
Okay, there is a good stress, just to go back again, there is a good stress and there is what we call the bad stress in layman's term, right?
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
so the good stress is what again?
So the good stress is called eustress, and it's a type of stress that actually facilitates productivity, decision making. So the way you want to look at the eustress is that when you're faced with a threat, it is that kind of stress that enables you to handle the situation. So what it does is that it equips your ability, increases your ability, improves your body metabolism such that you are capable at that point. You have the energy, you are able to think, you're strong enough to handle whatever the threats could be. So that's why we call it the good stress. So it facilitates decision making, productivity, and every one of us want that kind of stress from time to time. But the bad stress, which is the distress, on the other hand, can be either chronic or acute. So the way I like to look at it is that, it doesn't really promote your well-being. But the key thing here is that this is when you find out that the stress or the situation or the threat that you're exposed to exceeds your capacity to cope, right? Or your perceived capacity to cope. So that's also very important, because sometimes you might actually be able to cope, but you don't think you can cope. Now, and so you find out that you respond the same way, whether you can cope or not. That's why you see that in some situations, somebody is struggling, and when someone else comes and says, hey, you know what, I think you can do this, and they encourage them, suddenly they start to flourish. Why? Because the moment the perception changes, the whole stress reaction can also be reversed, right? So you have the chronic and you have the acute. Chronic here simply means that you are exposed to this kind of stress for a long time, for a duration, right? So I like to always shake this table for those of our brothers that live on the mainland. Maybe they live in Mowe and they work in Aja, and they do this, almost throughout the year. That is chronic stress. You have to do this repeatedly for a long time. Acute stress, on the other hand, might just be a short-lived stress, but most times it exceeds what you naturally will be able to handle. Again, another example will be that you just have a new boss, you're a marketer, the boss decides that they want to have aspirational goals, so they increase your KPI from 10 million to 100 billion. That is acute stress, right? So that's the difference. The difference between the eustress and distress is that eustress is positive. It enables your growth. On the other hand, distress is negative. It hinders your growth and affects your general well-being.
Thank you very much for that clear, very lucid definition, and of course, explanation on stress, eustress, and distress, because we want to leave the good stress, which is eustress, aside now, and zoom into the distress, which is the bad stress. So, talking about men and women, studies have shown that men and women react, respond, and handle stress differently. But we want to understand what goes on in the body of a man, in the psychology, what goes on within a man when he is stressed, such that there are some symptoms that might be particular to the man when he is undergoing stress.
Well, so I think one of the major difference here, perception is key, but beyond perception is that men are more likely to respond to stress by secreting or producing adrenaline and cortisol. Now, these are chemicals that could create what we call the fight and flight response. Now, again, the key thing about this response, take for example, cortisol, is that when we secrete cortisol, there is a temporal inhibition of your of some of the functions of your body, especially what we call the immune functions, right? There's a temporal inhibition of your immune function. So you are likely going to see that, again, it's not supposed to be a negative thing, but the challenge is if you have to be exposed to this for a long time, then that reduces, you understand what the immune system does. The immune system helps you, defends you, fights against germs and all that, and which could then pose a risk to men. So that's one. And so you're likely going to see that for men, because they start to experience this distress that comes with the secretion of these chemicals, some men look for externalized behaviors to deal with them. So they could turn to substance use, for example. Unlike women, who would talk about it. And there's one thing that talking does, is that talking helps you to see things from a different perspective. And if you take note, when I defined stress, I said stress is a natural response to perceived threats.
Yeah.
Right? So that means that women have a higher likelihood of being able to perceive it differently, right? Or even find solutions because they are sharing, because they are talking about it. Unlike men who would keep it, bottle it up, and they're trying to figure it out themselves. Unfortunately, the more they're trying to figure it out, the more it also accumulates psychological stress for them. And that over time, with the secretion of these chemicals, can begin to have significant physiological reactions or medical concerns over time.
Thank you. So now let's break it down to some of those symptoms, maybe the emotional, the psychological, the physical symptoms that you start to see in a man, or maybe the man sees in himself and knows, no, this is danger. I need to handle the stress better.
Okay, so for men, some of the symptoms that you're likely going to start noticing, and this is not specific to all men. It differs, with men. Some men start to withdraw. Actually, they start to withdraw into themselves, and so they'll talk less. And the idea behind that, maybe not a logical idea, but the idea behind that is that they're trying to save energy. They're trying to save enough energy to be able to fight or deal with the situation. The other reason that could happen is because sometimes men feel like they are not understood. And that's very significant, because if you don't understand me, how do I really share? Somebody might argue that you're not sharing. How do I understand you? Right? So we begin to go round and round. But that's something else. Then you can see that this starts to affect their sleep. So sleep, it affects sleep. It affects appetite in some men, but for women, it affects appetite more in women than men. But you are likely going to see that sleep is disturbed. So insomnia could be one of the significant characteristics that you would see. It could also start to affect sexual performance and can eventually lead to sexual anxiety. Now, but in some men, what you actually see is an increased sex drive. Now, some people have said that the reason why that happens is that they are looking for some bit of emotional connection. And sex is one of the ways that men actually bond emotionally. So you see that starts to happen, and that could lead to some bit of infidelity as well in some men. So sex drive is affected. Concentration is affected as well. In some men, you'd see that they turn to work as a coping mechanism. So they'll spend more hours at work, than they would spend at home. You could also see emotional outburst as well. Anger in men, you would see that again because men try to mask some of these other emotions. So they want to mask the sadness, they want to mask the anxiety, and so they turn to anger, and they get easily irritable. These are some of the things that you would see. Memory and memory losses could also be some of the symptoms that you would notice, but mostly there is a dissatisfaction, general dissatisfaction in life, general dissatisfaction in things they used to love doing before, and these symptoms can begin to progress over time to symptoms of depression, including thoughts of suicide. Right? In fact, studies show that more men show symptoms of suicidal thoughts than women, even though more men die by suicide actually than women. Again, they say that some people say that the reason why this might happen is that when men decide to end their life, they do it with more little means. So they do it more little, they probably jump off the bridge or shoot themselves, or do something that would almost guarantee that, they die. So these are some of the symptoms. It affects work, it affects relationships, it affects their physical health as well. And because cortisol affects immune system, you're likely going to start seeing things like high blood pressure. You're likely going to start seeing things like diabetes. You're likely also going to start seeing things like cancer. Some of these things start to show up, and even what we call some acute illnesses, they start to fall ill here and there. Somatic symptoms as well. So you see somebody come and say, you know what, I've just been having this pain all over my body, or I've just been having this headache that refuses to go. All this could actually be signs of stress. Unfortunately, some people, when they start to have this psychosomatic symptoms, if they go to the hospital, the doctor tells them, I've done all this scan, I can't see anything. Now, where else they'll go to? They'll go to Orioke, house, warm, and those things don't really solve the main problem, which is that they are experiencing severe or chronic stress.
Thank you so much for where you pegged it, because that was going to be my next question. So chances are that the man, which is backed up by statistics, the man will not ordinarily walk into the hospital and say, doctor, I think I am stressed, help me. No, he might not do that. Men are more inclined to do that. So how does he get to that point where he feels, okay, I am stressed, I need help, I need to be diagnosed? You're not seeing anything, maybe clinically, the tests you have run are not indicating anything, but something is wrong. So what are the things that are meant to be done so that you can know, okay, this is stress and we need to deal with it? In other words, the diagnosis.
Well, the good thing is that, so if a man walks into a hospital, typically, like you said, they wouldn't walk into a hospital because they think they are stressed, right? They probably want to do something else, either work, walk more, drink, smoke, have sex, do all these other things than really addressing the issue. And so sometimes, or most times, when you see a man walk into the hospital, it's because the stress is now manifesting as physical symptoms, right? And these physical symptoms, not just any physical symptom, because sometimes they have physical symptoms, but they still would not go to the hospital. But these physical symptoms are beginning to cause them distress or affect work or affect general functioning. Take, for example, a physical symptom around sexual performance, for example, right? Now the man is going to walk into a hospital after, depending on how educated or how exposed they are, after they've probably tried all those Abojei and all those things. They've tried all those things first and it's not working. Now they would get into the hospital. So when the doctor does all their physical examinations and can't find anything, if the doctor is aware that this could just be stress, now they're likely going to refer to the right place. Sometimes some men will just say, as psychologists, I'm not crazy, so they don't go. Again, another problem. But those that eventually decide to come, we have tools to really assess for this. We call them stress assessment tools. But beyond the stress assessment tools, typically, if you walk into my office, the three things I usually would want to ask you first is, how has your sleep been? How has your appetite been? And how has your mood been? Now, that would give me an indication that, oh, there might be something wrong. And then I pick up the right tool to assess. But there are tools to assess for stress. There are tools to assess for other things, other emotional concerns, and then we can then start intervention.
Thank you very much. So you can send your messages if you have any to 0809-444-0981. Again, 0809-444-0981, or you can call 01-448-9981 if you have any questions or there is something you'd like to clarify that has been said today. You can call that number. And then please turn down the volume of your radio set while you're doing that. And if you're sending the WhatsApp messages, please make sure that you include your name as well. We are talking about the topic of stress, especially as a man, and what you can, well, we've not gotten the part of what you can do, which we will quickly get to now. Just a minute, let me take this call. Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Please turn down the volume of your radio set.
Hello?
Okay, I can hear you. Go ahead. Your name and location, please.
Okay. My name is Alex.
Alex, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Ikorodu.
Okay, please go ahead.
Okay. First of all, doctor, I want to ask, I didn't get your name. What is your name?
Chris Abojei.
Chris Abojei. And if one wants to get in touch with you, how do I do it?
Yeah, we will definitely let you know that at the end of the show.
Okay.
All
now,
right.
I want to ask, for me personally, I have had some issues with my stomach. And to the extent that I noticed bleeding. I've been to hospital, done several tests, and the doctor seemed not to see anything. And of course, the next thing everybody will start thinking is witchcraft and all this.
Yeah.
Which was, of course, at the time I thought so, but I started reading, and then you saying this is very interesting because you were just saying exactly a lot of some of the things I've read, but I seem not to find anybody I can talk to because even the normal general GP, they don't really seem to understand much. Hello?
Yeah, he can hear you. He'll
So
definitely.
I know I'm not feeling well, but physically all tests I've done says I'm okay.
All right, then he will talk about that. Keep listening.
Okay.
Thank you so much for calling. Would you like to say anything about that?
Well, yes, I think that confirms what we said earlier, is that some people work into the hospital, you do all the physical tests, nothing is seen. And that's because the body keeps scores and the body finds ways to communicate to us. I say that there are three ways, that the body would communicate to you. First, it starts with your thoughts. You start to think about this over and over again. And then it moves on to your emotions. And so you must have seen some emotional distress here and there. And then it moves on to physical symptoms, which is what he might be experiencing. And so I would just suggest that, hey, you talk to, since you've done all the physical examination and it keeps on telling you, hey, there's nothing wrong, I think it's time to talk to a mental health professional or a behavioral health professional to make it sound a little bit nicer. And this is where maybe a clinical psychologist will come in. We can do an assessment that would help us understand what is happening. And if it's stress, good news is that for stress alone, you don't need medication actually, except if there are other comorbid, psychological distress. But if it's just stress, you might not need medication. You just need to adjust your lifestyle. And that's what you and your therapist will work hand in hand to say, hey, how do we adjust your lifestyle enough to help you achieve your goals? A few years ago, we had a couple that were trying to have kids. And some people might be wondering, what's the connection between stress and reproduction. It's because stress really affects every system in the body, every single system. And at some point, the gynecologist said, hey, go talk to a therapist. Now, this is something that you naturally not see, and when they came into the clinic after the assessment, we found out that they were experiencing chronic stress. Guess the intervention? Vacation. Right? We asked them to go on vacation, and lo and behold, like they say in the hospital or in the church, sorry, they conceived. They didn't come back to give their tithe and offering though, but they conceived. Now that's how stress can actually shut down most of your vital systems. And so sometimes a simple intervention like take a vacation, a simple intervention like exercise, a simple intervention like take a break, a simple intervention like cognitive restructuring, we're able to help you see things differently, or even problem solving, because maybe the stress is psychological and it's because there are issues in your life that you're trying to fix, would solve a lot of this problem.
Thank you. So we'll take a short break and come back to wrap this discussion up. But when we come back, I would like you to just give an overview of the possible causes. You have already mentioned it, but for someone who probably might not see that thing as an issue, for them to take a second look at it, which will be the causes, the general causes of stress, especially in men. There is work, you have mentioned, different life issues happen, but then just some of those things so that the person can take a second look and start to suspect that this is a possible stressor. You're listening to Soul Food right here on Smooth 98.1. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Dr. Oluwaseun, world-class performance strategist.
So when we are done with the conversation, you can let people know how they can, reach out.
Okay.
Across Africa in what we call the Peak Performer 100 recognition. This June, we are set yet again to celebrate excellence. And this time, we're bringing together 1,000 career and business women across Africa to the Peak Performing Woman of the Year 2023. I understand that any organization, industry, community...
It's very interesting that once people hear mental health professional or clinical psychologist, straight up, their guards are up and they're thinking, I'm not mad. Nothing is wrong with me.
Yeah, it's all about awareness. Actually, not many of them are aware of this. Even amongst professionals, I just got back from a trip. I went to train medical professionals on how to provide mental health first aid. And one of the questions that we asked before we started the training was, how many of you have mental health? And I saw that even with medical people, very few people rose up their hands and we had to help them understand that mental health is not the same as mental illness.
Yeah.
So you could talk to a mental health professional, not because you have a mental illness. In fact, if you look at the definition of mental health, it says that it's the ability to be the best that you can be. So simply you're talking to a mental health professional, which is somebody that can help you be the best that you can be. Right. And that's a simple way to look at it. But we hope that we get to that point where people start to see this too.
Hopefully. But so far, awareness has been good. And it's one of the reasons for doing this. All right, we're back.
Yeah.
Keep listening to Smooth 98.1. We got you covered with all the great information and music as well. This is Soul Food. We are talking about your health and wellness, especially for the men, because again, it is Father's Day tomorrow. It is International Men's Health Month. I do have a clinical psychologist as my guest this morning. He is joining me via Zoom, but you can be a part of the conversation on YouTube, which is youtube.com/smooth981FM Lagos. Again, youtube.com/smooth981FM Lagos. We have been talking about stress. My guest is Chris Abojei. And before the break, I said when we come back, we just want to have an overview of those possible causes of stress, especially in men, so that they take a second look at those stress. I will maybe give them a bombastic side eye and say, oh, maybe you're the one that has been disturbing me. So what are those causes of stress in men?
Well, I'm sure you're guessing already that number one on the list is right. Number one on the list usually. In fact, a survey was done some time ago, and 34% of men actually reported that their finances were actually one of the biggest stressors. And that's also because for men, men are respected and recognized based on their capacity, right? The capacity that they have usually is financial capacity. So the more money a man has, the more respect he's going to get, in quotes, right? In quotes, because some people have money and nobody respects them. But you're likely going to say the society respects financial ability, and men, want to be able to be in that position where they are respected, because that is one primary love language for men, respect. So finances is number one. Number two is family and relationships. Even though many people think that this would not even, rank as top, but it's one of the things, which simply tells us that men are more concerned about their family than people think they are actually. The man plays the role of a protector. And when they think that they're not able to do that, that also threatens their well-being. And remember, we said that stress is a natural response to perceived threats to your well-being. So relationship and family could also be a stressor. Unlike the average situation where women would likely express it, men would usually internalize it, keep it inside. They're not talking about it. They are trying to fix it, and you would also see that in the way men communicate. So a woman would share things with you, not because she wants you to fix it. She just wants to talk. So, for example, you go out and say, hey, darling, honey, whatever you call your spouse or your partner, how did your day go? You say, in fact, I woke up this morning. Can you imagine? And when I woke up, I took my bath. She's giving you details, right? When the man comes back and you say, how did your day go today? Oh, it was fine. And that's it. Now, but when women are sharing these details, in the man's head, he's trying to find solutions, right? He's trying to fix everything. And but the woman is not necessarily asking you to fix everything. Unfortunately, all men understand this. So the average man, he's taking the problem-solving approach to everything, which can be overwhelming for them. Now, the third reason is job stability, which also can be linked to the issue of finances as well. Job stability is one of the stressors. And the fourth is, the economy, usually. The fact that we're living in a fast-paced economy, but beyond the fast-paced economy, if you're living in Nigeria, you understand some of the changes that have happened over this couple of months that you have to adapt to. And one of the things that causes stress the most is actually change. Positive or negative change can lead to a lot of stress. On the list would also be health reasons, health concerns. Again, as men grow older, they are more likely to start experiencing some chronic health conditions, high blood pressure, diabetes, obesity, cancer. And so these things also can contribute to the level of stress that men experience. So these are usually the top reasons why men, are stressed: finances, relationships, the workplace, the economy itself, where they are living, and their health are top reasons why men are likely going to report symptoms of stress.
Thank you. With all being said and done, so how do they manage it?
First is to recognize it, right? I would say that every man listening to us right now should learn to check in, right? Because the body would always keep scores and tell you things. So check in, ask yourself, how am I feeling today? I've noticed this pain here that refused to go. Why is this pain here, right? Check in. And then if you monitor your sleep, right? Don't take it as a sign that you are hardworking. The fact that you are not able to sleep at night, that's not a sign that you're hardworking, because that could actually lead to even sudden death sometimes and could affect your productivity and your functioning. So if you're struggling to sleep, if you notice psychosomatic pains or pains in your body, if you're falling ill frequently, and you're not, you just keep on falling ill, please, you need to speak to somebody, but you need to start checking in first so that you identify these things early enough to talk to people, talk to someone, talk to a professional, go to your doctor, and nudge your doctor to say, hey, can I speak with a therapist or psychologist? They would guide you in that right direction. Some other things that you can start doing by yourself is what we call energy management or time management. You want to understand that you cannot fix everything as a man. It's difficult for some men to accept this, but you need to accept it so that you know peace. You cannot fix everything. And when you even deal with your family or deal with your spouse, don't try to fix everything. That's not what they're asking for. Most women just want you to listen. So don't try to fix everything, because by trying to fix everything, you might get overwhelmed and frustrated. Engage in healthy lifestyle. Monitor what you eat. Your diet is very important. Exercise has been proven to help manage stress effectively. So exercise more. That would help significantly. Have healthy relationships. People who would not just lead you to the pub or to the beer parlor, like they call it in Nigeria, but people who would help you improve your life and advance your well-being. You want to focus on the things that are working in your life. Perception is very key in managing stress. And so things might not be working the way you want it, but there are other things that might be working. So deliberately choosing to focus on the things that are working and meditate on them could also help significantly. And then reward yourself, right? Reward yourself. Do things that make you happy as a man. Of course, healthy things. And I need to underline that so that you don't say that therapist should do things or more. Don't go jaye like that. Do things that are healthy. Like I said, exercise, investing in knowledge, taking a vacation, all these things, sometimes even buying yourself a gift, right? This is, we're celebrating, International Men's Day, Father's Day. Many men would not get gifts. Sadly, many men would not get gifts, but go and get yourself a gift, right? And tell yourself that, see, I'm trying. I like to give the proverb of the lizard that falls from the tree. Looks around, right? Nobody's there to acknowledge you, but you nod your head and say, see, I'm trying. So I'm saying to all men here that you need to tell yourself, I am trying, regardless of what anybody else sees, So celebrate yourself. Do things that make you happy. Learn a skill. Engage in a hobby. Manage your sleep. But most importantly, if these symptoms are distressing and you're not able to manage them yourself, please reach out to somebody. It's not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of courage, actually. It's a sign that you care about yourself and that you care about your family as well.
Thank you so much. There's possibly nothing we can add to that. So if people want to keep up with you or ask you further questions, how can they do that?
Well, so you can reach me on Instagram at Chris Abojei, which is CHRIS ABOJEI. Or you could also reach out to my organization, which is PsychAid EAP. PsychAid is PSYCH aid AIDEAP.com. There are details on how to reach us, and we will be happy to help you through this process and help you manage stress. Like we say, you need to deal with it so that you can heal. Deal with it so that you can heal.
Thank you. And thank you again. So dear men, we hope that you have gotten that. And also the women who care about the men. This is not just for the men, also the women who care about them. You can help them out. And you have further information on how or why they react the way they do. So please be a helpmate indeed. Then we will save this video for you on YouTube. It is youtube.com/smooth981 FM Lagos. You can go back there to watch it or share it with your family, friends. And we will also put it up on our WhatsApp status so that you can see it. In some minutes' time, it will be the children on Curious Minds between 6 to 15 years of age. And we said this morning, nobody is spelling. If there is anything they will be spelling, it is father or daddy, whatever it is they call them. The children will basically be saying a shout out to their fathers, telling us about their fathers, who their fathers are, and all those beautiful things they would like them to know. That's what we're doing on Curious Mind this morning. So fathers, even if you want to bribe them to call to give you a shout out, it's fine. Just get them ready for the show, which runs from 8:40 till 8:55 right here on Smooth 98.1. Thank you again. And yeah, bye for now. We will be back next week, same time, 8 till 8:30 on Soul Food. Stay with us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure.
How's the baby doing? I'm sure, so big now or so old.
Yeah, actually, is currently 1 year, 3 months.
Time really flies.
Mm-hmm.
You can start to go to markets now,
In fact, I'm preparing the CV already. I'm preparing the CV. I've gotten him a jacket and a tie, so the CV is getting ready.
Oh, wow. Thank you. Do take care.
You
Yeah.
too. Bye.
Bye.